Hello.
Hello.
It's
Thank
that
you.
time
Hello.
again.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
excited.
it's entered a room and people are talking at me, or
Oh my
my
God.
podcast host.
Is this thing on?
Hello,
I'm a
everybody.
people.
Can you
Listen,
guys hear
Matt the
me?
Matt might not be, but I am a people.
All right, let's
I'm a
coalesce. It's going
sentient
great.
meat bag.
There we
Um,
hmm
so
Well,
My
if you made
gosh.
it through that, you probably know what you're in for. This is Always Strikes Last, an official daytime episode, not even Always Strikes Late. So,
Go
uh,
on.
what a treat.
It's
And
It's
not
getting always
midnight.
strikes late for me, but it is still daytime.
yeah, us being everywhere at once across all the time zones means we can never truly escape the nighttime.
No.
But
It's
we're here
true.
today with an extra special guest, Miles Kovarik, an esteemed
Hello.
member of Wicked Dicey. Welcome, Miles, tournament
Mhm.
organizer, player
Woo!
extraordinaire, generally
Yeah.
all around nice guy and good man about town.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on. It's gonna be
Thanks
fun.
for
thanks for
being
Yeah,
here.
coming on.
thanks for being on.
It's
We're
Yeah,
gonna be a
excited.
riot. It's gonna be a roller coaster. It's gonna be a roller coaster
nice.
of an episode. You should stay tuned if you're listening.
That's what we aim for. Like if you have clicked onto this either
hmm
because you like Age of Sigmar or because you have a big finger and don't know how to operate a podcast app, stay
Yep.
and listen a while.
Yeah, whatever works. However
Hey,
you
that
got
second
here.
one
We're
got me.
happy. We're happy you're here. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely not niche, not at all.
Nope, not a
All
one.
audiences. But yeah, I mean, obviously, everyone, if you're here, you know what you're in for. And what we really want to talk about today is this awesome event that really just happened last weekend. I think it was last weekend, and kind of set the standard for competitive play in America, kind of creating a tournament just like you see out there on these sort of European old world places. So
Yeah.
like Masters or Worlds or Six
Matt the
Nations, whatever.
Miles,
But
Six
one for
Nations
here,
lover,
yeah,
Hmm.
fun team events. We wanted one.
and we got one because of these
I
guys.
find it hilarious that we set a standard. I don't know if that was that was very unintentional, the said standard, but I'm glad
Uh-huh.
we did. And the buzz after the event has only been that, and so exciting. Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, that's everything you want out of running an event, right? Is good buzz, excitement for the next year's so
Yeah.
congrats on a well-run event. Just kick
Yeah.
that off.
Yeah,
Hell
set
yeah.
the stage on that. But let's begin the beginning, just so we don't assume anyone knows anything. Miles, can you tell us a little bit about like this event, how it came to be, what kind of you guys envisioned it as, and then also just kind of like a little bit of your planning and like the beginnings of it all.
I was born in a hospital in Memphis, Tennessee.
Nice.
And then no, I'm just kidding. Okay,
Fast
so
forward a bit. All right.
yeah.
We want the long form.
Yeah. No, so this actually was the silly phrase I keep throwing around is it was kind of born out of wine. So there's a birth in there somewhere, but basically we had been tossing around this idea
I
of
appreciate you.
a yeah, right, a Age of Sigmar North American Masters for 3 years, and it just never happened, and it was never going to be, because what we've learned since is there is quite a bit of herding of cats and getting them,
Mm,
you know, all to agree on the same thing. And in that intermittent time when there wasn't an event, there were all these really amazing events happening in Europe, and they were setting standards, and they were
Yeah.
bringing Serbia into the fold and Australia into the fold, and getting people to play on a common ground. And so one night we kind of like put our foot in the sand, and we said we're just gonna do this hell or high water. And we kind of like knocked on the electronic door of a couple of like pretty renowned organizers across the country,
hmm
and said, "Hey, like drum up eight of your best players, and we'll kind of we'll have the venue for you. We'll do all the organizing there and fly in on XYZ date, and let's have North American Masters." And so we had Canada, and then seven other regions that we kind of divided out in the US. And so that was kind of the nexus of it all. That was we basically were like, we've got to make this happen
Hmm.
because, I mean, we would hear, that there's really amazing talent in Texas and there's really amazing talent in Pacific Northwest. And occasionally everyone would fly over to the Worlds event and play, but like, that's 8 people out of, so many amazing folks. And so
Hmm.
this was kind of our opportunity to, surround the wagons, whatever that phrase, and get everybody on to play and have fun and become. My little through line on it was always like, let's all just become friends at the end too. So anyway, so that's my like that's how
Nice.
the event kind of came to be.
So this was an AOS World style 8-man team event,
Hmm.
and 8 teams from across the North America.
Hmm.
I guess Mexico didn't have a team. Maybe they can have a team in the future. Good for them
Yeah,
if they get
we're
one together.
we're hoping so we're hoping to include South America and Mexico, uh maybe not next year. I don't think it's in
It's a
the
lot of
cards.
work. It's
It's a lot
like
of
for the
work.
first one out of the gate, you guys had
Yeah.
we're already very ambitious having 8 teams.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
uh
Um,
So
and
many cats. So many cats.
so we we ran Six Nations last year. Ireland did. We hosted, and I am convinced that the only reason this thing keeps going is that none of the participant countries want to be the one that shits the bed and can't get
Yeah.
this thing going. So, you know what I mean? Like no one wants that shame. So it just has this momentum now. Uh,
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I was telling everybody as we were kind of like signing in, like Wicked Dicey, we're kind of known for like our delinquency, and we're kind of fine with shitting the bed in a funny way. This is like
sure,
kind of
sure.
hilarious, but we knew we could get it across the line, and we knew we've thrown great events in the past. I've thrown events upwards of like not in the same field, but 7,000 people, and so I have some background of
Hmm.
making a bunch of people drink a lot of beer and have a lot of fun. And so we knew that we could get enough people in and give them a great enough experience that the next year, when we do skip it around, everybody would have a blueprint to work
Sure.
off of. And we're already like the folks that did show up, or even some of the folks that didn't, are like barreling down our door, like knocking on our doors, like, hey, like we want it here this year. Can you please like give us the like, the whatever you call it, like
The
can you
playbook.
the playbook, or like
Yeah.
Hmm.
don us the flame bearers for next year. And so that's exciting.
And
Yeah.
and not to like take too long a pause on it, but I do think it's worth mentioning that you guys are very good at organizing events. I mean, no big thing having that ultimate skill of getting that many people drunk at once. Great on you, Miles. But like all of the Wicked Dice events are amazing. Am I biased
Thank you.
because I'm local? Yes. Am I right? Also, yes. I mean, if you go to any Everwinter, you go to any Ironweld or any retreat, not that I ever get to go to retreats because of family dues, but they all seem very good.
Congrats, by the way.
Thank you.
um But yeah, I mean, like I said, so the quick one on that, just for folks who don't know, and folks listening that have heard the story 1,000 times, I apologize, but I used to run like an illegal Harry Potter convention around the country, and
Nice.
we would basically book these large venue, like Live Nation sponsored us, and so I
Oh
have like
shit.
a lot of weird experience with, you know, doing a lot on a little tiny budget. And then like at one
Mhm.
point we had like, like I said, 7,000 people, and we had about like 40 staff members to serve them. And it was a lot of people had too much butterbeer. It was a whole thing. It was just like, it was a troublesome, and it was in my past, and I've escaped it, and we almost got sued. But anyway,
But
I brought that experience to this, like, hey, like my like community of people that I love, like let's now like put that blueprint on these
Hmm.
events. And
hell
like I
yeah.
refuse to throw an event that's just, you'll see on like our silly website, like it's like this is like not an office gathering, like it's just
WickedDicey.com, by the way. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
wickeddicey.com,
Yeah.
shout out.
We'll throw that
But
in the show
yeah.
notes.
But we're like, I went to a couple of Sigmar events right off the bat when I was getting started, and a lot of them felt like office convention. I was like, okay, I'm gonna sign the card that I was here, and then like play my
Hmm.
games and then walk away. And
Hmm.
I just refused to do that, to my detriment and to my insanity. So anyway.
So I do have to ask before we get too far away from it. Did you have Harry and the Potters play with you at that convention?
We played Harry and the Potters over the radio, probably also illegally. We were one contract away
Shit.
from getting the Weasley brothers to sign on to play Quidditch Pong with us, and that I
Whoa.
think tipped the balance because I think Warner Bros. Found out at that point, and
Mm.
that's when the vice president of law at Warner Bros. Sent us a very angry message.
So
Um,
so just as somebody who's never really gotten into the Harry Potter thing,
Hmm.
I just want to let you know my wife now thinks you're probably one of the coolest people
gosh.
in that area at the very
No
least.
pressure.
So I just want to let you know.
Yeah.
You've put yourself on a pedestal. Now that you're on this pedestal, and you've bent this organizing mania that you had for Harry Potter over to AOS.
Mhm.
How'd it go?
Yeah, really well. So just kind of zeroing in on like are you talking about masters or are you talking about just like our events in general?
Oh, just Masters. How did it go? Right out the gate, a
Yeah.
little sounds like the way you're describing the attention to detail and the joy that you wanted to bring for your previous endeavors over to AOS. I'm excited. Um,
Yeah.
and I need to go and actually play well so I can get into Masters. Jeez. But
You're
yeah,
the
no,
captain.
look,
That
how'd it
that
go? How'd it
helps.
go?
Yeah.
Yeah, that really does help, doesn't it?
So yeah, so it went really well. We had to like lay out the like details really quick. So it was an event. It was a two-day event, three if you count Friday as kind of a social day and everybody kind of meeting up. And we had a DJ Friday night. We had a four-game series, so not five games. Very
Okay.
particular detail there. And it was eight coaches per team, so 64 players. And then we had three non-playing coaches that flew in as well to coach their team. Sean Clark included in that, who's I think one of the big Team America folks. And
Hmm.
then in the Nuge. But anyway, the so we had eight teams playing, and over the course of the time, everyone kind of I think thought that Texas had kind of the strongest chance of winning. If you don't want to know the results, cut off now and look at the BCP or something. But basically, spoiler alert: Pacific Northwest won it all,
Hmm.
Like the
and we're really
champions they
excited for
are.
them. Congrats. They kicked major ass, and I actually got
Mhm.
to meet a few of them, and they were just so lovely. I also used to live in Seattle for 2 years, little side note there. So I had like a little
Okay.
bit of like,
Well, and
yay.
and like
Nice.
so we paid very close attention to the team composition and all the lists because right, Six Nations is next week. And we are also stuck in we're on the pre-Battle Scroll
Oh, you guys
list
too. Okay.
meta. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So we've been locked out of the new stuff for a couple weeks, and so we were like, "Oh shoot, we got to look at these lists. We got to like dive into this." So we were paying very close attention. And honestly, I think I called PNW right out of the gates because they had the most like all the teams had at least one rock star, right?
Hmm.
One to two names you were like, "Oh yeah, okay." But Pacific Northwest had just like eight great players.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like at least four of them I know for a fact have won GTs that I was at, like just like really well put together team.
So Gavin on Texas team. Everyone, Gavin won LVO 2 years ago.
Hmm.
Is very renowned. Gavin, I think chalked it up to like, oh, you beat us because we only had 20 minutes in an Uber ride, to prepare. But honestly, like
Oh, sure, yeah.
The PNW, and no shout out to Gavin there. Gavin's great. Like it's just more of like funny. It's a funny, story there. But like, yeah, the PNW team, I think they benefit. Y'all would know this more than I do, but like they have a circuit, it's very alive, it's very well run, and they're
Yes.
constantly getting in high reps of highly competitive play, and it's in a meta that
100%.
like is not necessary. Like I don't know if that meta like travels so far around, so I think upon seeing them win, it also is one of these like, oh, next year we look forward to like trying to take down Pacific Northwest, which I think
Sure,
is
yeah,
really
of course.
amazing as
Yeah.
well.
Oh,
So,
they're gonna relish that too. Like, in all friendliness, they're gonna be like, yeah, we're gonna stand on this tower. Come and get us. Come and get
yeah,
us. But
yep.
It
yeah,
absolutely makes sense.
Pacific Northwest, like we've said many a time on this show, is just a brutal meta. Everybody is so good. So it's really awesome to see them come in again,
I
like
think it's
Miles
great.
said, with a ton of people.
Yeah.
I'm
Hmm.
personally so excited that it worked out this way because, I mean, come to that point, Matt to Matt, we've talked about how strong that meta is. We have some direct experience or observance of it, but like a lot of people haven't experienced that. And sometimes a lot of these big regional tournaments that have existed in America, you don't get as much of the crew out there. And so now I feel like the fact that they took it kind of puts them on the map and maybe exactly the way Miles the K, if that's the way we should do this.
It
we
is
we
now.
wanted it to be. It's like, okay, now it's a
Da-da-da.
countrywide thing. Regions are getting reputation. It's not just like
Mhm.
one person who happens to be
No,
from Texas
exactly.
or
It's not
Massachusetts or
just
whatever.
the Midwest
And
only does soft scores. We have other things in other areas.
Such hobby
and
champions.
that's really no shade to anyone else on any of the other teams too. Like, just because I don't know your name doesn't mean you don't win GTs, like stuff like that. It's just
Shout
like
out Nick True,
Yeah, Nick
Dr.
was
True,
awesome.
man.
I I
One of my
think
gaming club dudes
I
from the
think I
Pants
said
Mafia.
I think I said this at the end of the tournament, something to the effect of like I like was shouting out all the volunteers and the staff people, and then I said I like didn't even name the 64 players, but I was like,
Hmm.
y'all know who you are and how amazing you are. Like
Yep.
Mhm.
all of the list, like if you played in this event, there's a reason for it. And that's not even like everyone was like, again, like soft scores Midwest, but like even some of those players were just brilliant, and some of the lists they
Mhm.
Hmm.
brought and the gameplay, like
Mhm.
against all odds, against like old Night Haunt. I say old, but like just released Night Haunt and just released LRL, which are oppressive and
Yep.
terrifying.
Mhm.
Like there was
Mhm.
some upset wins that are fascinating, just and so good on them, so.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, Miles K here. What? How did they actually do selection for the teams? Did you leave it up to the different regions to come up with their own thing? Did you have a standard template here for that too? What was it?
Really great question. So we this year, and we like, I think we overemphasized this going into the event. I kept
Hmm.
saying in like any presser release, like vaguely press release, I was like, we're gonna work on our system for next year. And like honestly, what we did was we just like we identified like 8 community organizers. So like
Hmm.
in let's say Texas, we just found somebody who like is places high, well known, and like hosts a large amount of GTs themselves. And we said,
Yeah.
hey, you know the community more than we'll ever know. And we also don't want to just bring people in purely based off of like just based off of ITC points, because like a team has to be able to work together and has to like each
Sure.
other. And
Hmm.
so we said, hey, we put the power in the agency in their hands, and we said, make your 8-person dream team this year.
Okay.
There's like you could leave if you did this and for 10 years with the exact same model, you could get some cronyism or something like that. But like
Mhm.
I think like we were very clear in our expectations. We were like, make it an 8-player dream team. Find people who are placing high and who you think would represent your region the best. And if they would represent your region in a negative way, then please don't let them come over. We don't want that. And so we always like to inject that positivity and like camaraderie and everything. And so like that was kind of the best way we could think to go about it this year. Next year, whoever takes the helm, so to speak, they might have like a different system for that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, at least from Six Nations, all the teams organize themselves, and it's the same groups that do the world's teams. So it's like all that infrastructure is there, and every team's got their own. I was talking with Owen Jackson. They've got a really interesting uh, leadership model that I think is really like they've got like a triumvirate system worked out where no one's really the captain, and it's a much more committee. Anyway, I was
Mhm.
very intrigued. Uh,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I never actually followed up with how anybody ended up. so I do know like with Pacific Northwest, they have their circuit already. So they pulled
Yep.
the top 8 from their circuit, and they might, they go down the list. One person can't make it because their wife says you can't travel across the nation right now or something, or they're whatever.
Reasonable.
Or and then you kind of just keep going down the list until you find the mix of
Yeah.
folks. And then I think with New England, we had a list of people, and then like 4 of them ended up dropping, so we had to like replace 4 of them. And
I was
Does New England not have a circuit
Ah, so that's the
with
excuse
how?
for England not or New England not winning. I see.
Well,
We had
no, I
been
mean,
leading
you
up
I
got
to
was
this point.
you've got
This
Captain
makes
Rhode Island, you've
sense
got
Oh
stuff
now.
gosh.
going
I
on Connecticut,
see.
Massachusetts,
I
all right
was
there in that tri-state area.
So shout out. Let me like do a really big shout out here. As delinquent as myself and Corey are, we have found somebody who is opposite of us, Ryan Muskoff. And the reason I bring him up is he TO'd the event, and we couldn't have done it without him because we would have looked really dumb. And but Ryan just started the New England circuit. And so
Exactly.
nice.
that's I think it's neo-circuit.com. It's also on like there's like a 40K guy that's doing it collaborative, like they're both doing a circuit, right?
Mhm.
Um
Nice.
so if you're in New England and you want to compete, that's the new thing. That's all the rage
Go
coming down the
Nice.
on.
pipeline.
I was
Very
so
cool
I had
thing.
two things. One, Ryan, I think also is coach of the newly founded Portuguese team for AOS World. So
Yeah.
congrats to him.
Yeah.
He and Pedro were both on the UN team last year, so they're teaming up again just to found the Portuguese team, which we're excited about.
Oh, that's
And then
fantastic.
I was wondering, having read the New England team, and I was like, surely they don't have to get a Welsh guy to come play for them. I'm sure there are eight good, like I know there are eight
Wait, is
good
that where
players.
Owen went? I thought he.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So
hysterical.
Owen is theoretically based in Brooklyn, is my
I'm sure
understanding.
he's
Uh,
theoretically based somewhere. Yeah, yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that's where that came about. And I think, there's even some people like Jeremy Vessier would be kind of considered in the New England circuit, and I think
Sure.
he had to drop out, who everybody knows Jeremy, right? And so
Mhm.
Yeah.
there's a
I mean,
couple heavy hitters that like Bill Souza has been in retirement. So like things like that where it's like someday some other names might crop up. But yeah, Owen
Mhm.
snuck in and
yeah. And
supported
look,
us.
there's no shame in calling in a ringer in a pinch. Like obviously he's a great person for that. You know,
Especially if you
he's
win the event. Oh, wait.
Mhm.
It would have been blasphemous results if we
Yeah.
didn't know.
You can't win
yeah.
your own tournament, dude. That's the rule.
Yeah. But yeah,
That is
so
awesome.
that's kind of
It is. It
the
is.
the quick one too about it. It went off without a hitch. We went bowling on Saturday night. That was kind of
Nice.
like the wicked dicey twist. I just thought it was real fun, and
Mhm.
I think we tried to get disc golf going, but that didn't work. But our thing has always been yes, competition at its highest level, but also yes, like what the hell are we all here for other than to be friends at the end of the day? And so that's kind of
Mhm.
Mhm.
like, it's masters with a twist, essentially. So
And it is a game of toy soldiers at the end of the day.
it is a game.
What are we doing here?
Don't tell anybody
Absolutely.
that. Don't tell anybody that.
Serious business of toy soldiers
They're gonna stop taking
Yeah.
us
and friendship.
seriously.
Uh,
Oh, that's
Oh,
fantastic. So I have some very nitty-gritty questions, which is like, how did you deal with the spread of missions? What was the round?
oh gosh.
Yeah.
did they rotate perfectly, or was there one that got dropped, or did you use all the missions? Like,
Oh, you're asking Ryan questions here. Uh,
fair enough.
yeah, we had a train pack which is on, I think it's like Wicked Dicey slash AOS
You had your
Master.
own terrain pack in substitution of the GW terrain pack.
We did maybe in complement to it.
Okay.
I think we definitely made a new graphic for it because
Okay.
whatever graphic was
Okay.
out there wasn't.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
y'all are welcome to use that, by the way. There's if you wanted to like for reference or anything like that, but it's linked like halfway down the page. We had Madigan, who's very everyone knows is like one of the best
The
rules
top rules
creator
per
in
yeah,
the
she's
entire
awesome.
world. So Madigan and Ryan kind of helped create the rule pack for it, and then the train
Mhm.
pack, and then Gareth, so Tomo also helped. And so like we had very heavy hitters behind the scenes doing all of God's work that I
Nice.
cannot do. And so yeah, it
Lesson for
was
it. Yeah.
yeah, very important. There's multiple times when like rules calls came up and like they walked up to me and I just laughed because I was like, I'm not gonna know
Yeah,
this.
what do you want me
Um,
for?
yeah, like that's not my role.
Yeah.
Um,
I need an
which by the way,
adult.
or go ahead.
I just made this thing. That's it. I just made
Yeah,
Yeah.
this. You guys take care of that.
yeah,
I,
like yeah, I know there were missions. I know I like terrain mattered, like, but beyond that, I am not the one to go for that. We'll have to get Ryan on the show for you at
Nice.
some
I mean,
Which we
I'm
could definitely
interested
do at
only
some point.
because as someone who also TOs like the current terrain pack, I love that GW has given us a terrain pack. Right? I love that terrain is fixed for every mission. That's really nice. It's really good to be able to know what to expect. It is a really annoying set of terrain to be able to have all of the correct terrain for all of the
Oh,
missions available.
I
And
gotta jump
Yeah.
it's
in on that.
I
Agreed.
I gotta say, as a TO as well, I started down this path of having too many people, or especially after having events where I was using either store or whoever was helping me provide the space for the tournaments. After getting complaints about, oh well, if I had this table, I would have won this game. I just went out and did it. Just
Mhm.
standardized terrain sizes. You have a little square, there it is. That's what it is. You
Yep.
know.
I will say that even going the more romantic route of trying to figure it out the night before the game shop for every tournament I run and trying to somehow map, the what is in like the how can my three missions have the right sort of terrain pieces on this stuff with minimal alignment. It is a harder task than it was last time.
It becomes this kind of like weird, like I have to double check that. Well, I have to double check this, right? Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Oh, does the
the
third mission have another piece over here they don't have in the set?
mhm.
Like,
Yeah, so
Mhm.
that's the investment for it as a TO for me of just being able to set up wherever I need and just have two or three big boxes worth of it
mhm.
just sitting there. Totally worth it. Then again, now I'm sure like people will be like, oh, well, all this terrain, I'm not on a lava board anymore. Well, you don't have to complain about one terrain size being larger than the other. Full competitiveness, good sir
Yeah.
It's a
or
40K
ma'am.
table
Good.
with little boxes.
Yeah. Well, no, 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 no,
You want
no.
crazy terrain maps that are lopsided? Go play narrative with me. It's a lot of
Yeah.
fun, but this isn't what
Uh,
this is about right now.
This is
There we
not
go.
City Fight Codex
yeah.
from third edition. Come on now.
This isn't the
No.
Dreadfort Siege.
Yeah. Ugh.
Anyways, anyways, no, that sounds awesome though. Like just getting the pack together was probably a lot of help, I would
Yeah.
imagine.
Mhm.
Yeah, and one of the there was a couple of moments throughout that I think at a glance caught people off guard, but it's
Oh,
opened up interesting discussions, I think. And so one of them was we were very
please.
we were very keen on clocks.
Hmm.
And so we
I
actually
mean, official timekeeping devices.
yeah, and we actually like we bought some clocks for people who would inevitably forget to pack them in their plane luggage.
Hmm.
But that was like
Hmm.
a big point of contention. There was one game uh, that I think I'll just anyway. There's a game that happened. I won't name the person because I probably over joked on this, but they
Mhm.
got down to they were playing their game. They were already losing a little bit,
Hmm.
and it's a team event, and so they've got to like not lose by a lot.
Yeah.
And they were down to 14 seconds, and so Ryan had to stand over them, watch the action as it happened, and he basically like moved his models and then missed a 6-inch charge by rolling a 5, and then his turn was over because the it was a the to re-roll your charge was a like not I'm thinking
Was an optional
it
thing
was
to
an
make
Elective
sure you
optional
didn't
action,
get.
and you
Yeah.
can't do
it
that when you
wasn't
run
a
out of time.
core
Oh.
action. And so the game like stopped right there and it was over. And it was just like,
Damn.
Yeah.
I made it's one of those things like, yes, the spice is that we want people to like laugh, dance, have fun, but also like it is Masters. And so like
Yeah.
we held people accountable in that sense. And there was like a couple of games that did go to time. And so that was like a big point of contention. There was another one.
Well, quick question: your
Yeah.
rounds, were they still the 3 hour rounds, or did you go a little bit longer for the?
Yeah, what was the time? It was like
Well,
what
you
is
guys
it?
add a little extra time, didn't you, Miles, for like like the prep around like the selection? I thought you did.
I think like once you paired, I
Mhm.
think you got 10, Ryan, don't listen to this. I think you got 10 minutes to chat out your list and everything. And then there was like a set amount of time. I want to say it was like 2 hours and 40 minutes or I don't know. I'm gonna butcher it. I know that the round
We'll
one
loop
to
that line.
lunch was 4 hours. So it seems like they have like an hour to do all the things and then 3 hours to play. So
Gotcha.
again, don't quote me on numbers. That is not where
Sure.
I'm good
Okay.
at.
Directly quote you on numbers. Got it.
Directly quote me on numbers.
It is,
Um,
I mean, you know, it's tough. Like it's
That's
on
a
one hand,
lot.
like the clock is like adds a whole other element and it's like a whole thing that you have to pay attention to. But at the same time, like you're playing at the Masters. This is the moment where you should be able to play, like do all the things. And if
I
yeah,
mean,
you if
sorry,
your
go ahead. Go
strategy
ahead.
is to take more than 50% of your time, that's not a strategy.
Mm.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, like, I would imagine that most people there would have played with a clock to practice in general. I think we talked about this on the last Always Strikes Late episode for a little bit, but like a clock is a great practice tool in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So, like, I don't know. I find, it'll be stuff like this. Like we say, every time clocks pop up, we're like, okay, for the next 6 months, people are going to be back and forth on clocks, and then it'll
Yeah.
disappear until the next time. But
I do
it's
think it's a fundamentally fair device. I know that GW
mhm.
even has made this more contentious recently with a obscurely difficult to understand clock policy, but at the same
yeah,
time,
For our
torturous.
listeners, what is that? What is that policy? And also me, because I must have
Oh
completely
You
God.
missed
missed
that
it.
one.
well, let's
They
see. You go, you do it, Matt the Miles.
they had some way of so you know how we've got a very handy and very useful YouTube video where we tell you how much time is left in the round and where you should be roughly in your game?
Yeah, it
Yes,
still
link
works even in
below.
this edition. Go ahead and look
They
for it.
they took that, which is a very useful way to measure time, and they made it really ambiguous and it's all milestone based, and then there's just like
Yeah.
suggestions about how much time each milestone. Anyway,
I
it's
feel like
like a
there's a,
completely useless way to tell time.
Yep.
So,
They
so give me an example of the milestone then.
I don't, you know what? I don't have all the details in front of me. I'm
I
gonna.
mean,
It was bad. I mean, I can't quote it, but it was real bad. Like Rob created a whole video about it and was
he
just
did.
like,
It's a
yeah,
great
I
like
think
I'm
our
30
sure he
listeners
had
minute
better.
nothing good to say
video.
about it.
So
The
it's
That's
so
Honest
great.
nebulous
Wargamer.
that we can't it that speaks to how bad it is. If it's so
Uh,
nebulous that you can't remember what was in it.
Let me try real quick. If I had to elevator pitch the entire thing, like 30 seconds, keep me honest. It's that imagine you don't want to use a clock because clocks are bad. So you need a
Yep.
mhm.
small bureaucracy to monitor
Hate clocks.
ill-defined like missings of milestones to then use the same clock you hated.
Yep.
Done.
Listen, we're Team Sundial here. All right. At the end of the first round, we need
Yeah.
to be fully deployed. We need to have already gone through our turns. We need to
Mhm.
be so far into this that the sundial definitely wasn't like 20-ish minutes per person.
Yeah.
But if you go and you aren't hitting your milestones, you start getting docked points or assigned a point. It's not fully clear. And then after so many of these points, if you end up being like the person that, oh, we got to go and be put on a clock, because there's an option where if you fuck up enough, you get put on a clock to match your time, that then they will reduce your time, whether it was you or your opponent that made you have to get a clock in the previous round.
Oh.
You lost me for part of that, Rocco,
And
at the end,
then
but you had
Yes.
me at sundial.
Anyway,
after that, you have to break the abacus and distribute it in each
exactly.
corner of the
Look,
state or territory that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
if you haven't finished deploying by time Sun gets the second stick, you are
Yep.
so screwed.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and just because of the complexity there, I'm gonna imagine that was for 40K players just because they love their arbitrary complexity. So
You got to
Oh,
sing
we're gonna
that
leave that over
canticle.
there.
Massage
Yeah.
the computer with the proper oils. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
we've seen
This,
Space Marine 2. We get it.
Yeah.
uh,
I still
I'm
need to
glad
get
we
that game, by
indulged.
the way.
This,
I'm so late to every party.
That should
Oh,
be
same here.
Matt. Well,
Same
now
here.
you'll have
I'm late
more
there with you.
B-roll to put
Hmm.
on our
Hell no.
videos.
I'm not gonna sully
Hmm.
this podcast with a space marine.
Miles,
No way,
welcome
no
to
way.
another beloved AoS tradition and ASL tradition, which is taking casual side swipes at that other game.
Oh
That's right.
gosh. I have to remain neutral. I used to have a lot of side swipes to that other game, but I have learned to love the community that is up here at least, and
good.
Nice. That's true. It is a
I
good
make
community.
money from folks in that game signing up, and so I have to be somewhat neutral. But you are
That's true.
welcome to.
Okay.
See,
Okay.
see, here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Oh,
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I hate the
Uh-oh.
game, not the players. I hate
Yeah,
the
there you go.
game.
say,
See, that's
what are you
what it
painting
is.
right there,
Oh,
Matt? What are
oh,
you
I see.
painting? What was that?
What
I
do you
saw
think I'm
metallic
painting? Is
wings.
that a
Yeah, Matt's
Vastor?
painting some of
Oh
that
my
right
God.
now.
Is that a
Crazy.
Vastor?
Is that a chicken?
No, it's a Vastor.
It's a
Oh,
future
interesting.
space
The
I am
chicken,
literally
maybe.
painting 40K right now. Yes.
That's too
yeah,
funny.
Yes, I am.
This is
totally
this
not an
I
is
can
Iron
still
Warriors
hate the
Demon
game.
Prince. The
I love
fifth
my
Chaos
local
guy.
Doll Wars team,
this
man.
is irony on the level of when Matt DeRocco was talking about his big narrative gamer props. Listen to throat cutter. Okay.
Cutthroat.
So
It's
I
different.
I
Okay.
think I found, and again,
Okay, Dad.
because Ryan is listening up until this point, I have to say
Uh-huh.
this.
Oh,
The
sure.
Okay.
each player receives 1 hour and 40 minutes of time. So I
Okay.
think
Okay.
that's how much time they got. And
Okay.
people still kind of ran out in that case. And actually, you know, I, I went through a little time where I was known as a slow player. I actually
Hmm.
changed my Discord name to Miles Slow Player dot or something like that, Kovarik. But
Nice.
I have since improved from that. Other players can attest. But I have lost a game based on the fact that somebody came across the board at me with an alpha, took out less than they had hoped, and then my turn went and I did some stuff, and then they sat across the table from me waiting on their turn for, I swear to you, it was an hour. Like it
Hmm.
felt like an actual hour of them contemplating
Hemming and
how to
hawing.
re-win the game that they had like obviously fobbled. They
Hmm.
obviously made some dumb mistake, and then
Hmm.
he
I
ended up
got.
winning. And so I do have like sub like, I don't necessarily love clocks, but I do understand the reasoning for them.
Oh yeah.
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 Yeah,
Yeah.
bringing
Oh,
it back around to the actual thing.
But
This.
what's
Oh,
nice though too is if you're on the clock and you're confident in using it, you can use that time however you want.
hmm.
I played a Welsh KO player last year, and I gave away a double because he was a mile away, and he sat there and for like 30 minutes trying to figure out a battle tactic, called
Yeah.
a timeout and everything. He was just like, "Wait, what? Like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? You're giving me a double." I'm like, "Yeah, you're a mile away. Do it.
Yeah.
All my buffs are up. Have fun."
Do it, you
Yeah.
won't.
You
see, this
know,
this is
like,
a good point because the
and
emotional landscape there. Go ahead. Sorry. Totally
no, no,
interrupted.
and he didn't time out. We finished the game, no problem. You know, like, but he
Yeah.
chose to use his time that way, and I hope he thinks it was a good use of his time. I didn't think so in the moment, but whatever. You
No,
know?
like the feels on it though. Like I mean, in that way, the clock is like really great because how would it have felt if he was sitting there like trying to make turn two battle tactic double whatever happened, and you're like, oh my god, guy, because I know this is gonna drag on. But when you know it's his time and he knows it's his time, you're like, yeah, take all
Yeah,
the time
yeah.
in the world, take all the time left in that clock. It always feels
Yeah.
just fine then.
Yeah, I like that scenario of the clock and what it kind of puts, when it puts feet to fire. The
Hmm.
other thing I was thinking about that happened at the event was the way the coaches interact kind of
Mhm.
became, it was like a positive, but also there's like some contention behind it.
Okay.
And
What
so
happened?
basically three teams brought in, and this is just something like, I guess, for future events and then maybe for Six Nations and things like that. So three
Mhm.
coaches, non-playing coaches, flew in and helped their team out. So they were just wandering around with notepads, and they each player had 3-minute timeouts, and only one of them. And so if you call the timeout, you could talk to your quote unquote coach for 3 minutes, and then your opponent could also talk to their coach for 3 minutes during that timeout. Um,
Sure.
And so for the other 5 teams, they had a playing coach, and according to the rules, those playing coaches couldn't just like stop their game and go over and help. They basically had to like finish their game because of how like the FAQ was written, blah blah
Sure.
blah. And so something that like we heard a lot of hemming and hawing about was like the like structure around the how the coach can help. And so
Okay.
I thought we thought that was kind of interesting. And like again,
I
that was one of
mean,
those like growing pains that I think in the long term will be easily ironed out. But like now we just got to like figure it out.
Sure.
So
sure.
I did the coach gig at Worlds this year, and getting my brain in the space of outside of like, in a timeout you can say whatever you want, right? Like it's a timeout. Outside of the timeout, the information I'm allowed to give and ask for is like highly restricted, you
yeah,
know? And so
yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh, can I say that? I don't think I can say that. Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no, that's an
what
interesting
if
thing.
like how can I get somebody to ask me a question? You know?
Well, and that's a good thing
Sign
though,
language.
right? That's a good
The
thing
slow
because
way.
you're a coach. You're if and I actually experienced this, and I think we had that back and forth with Matt Beasley where he actually turned me back on the teams. Um, where if somebody is just sitting around giving that player pointers and there's no like limit to what it is, if you're the opponent you're effectively playing two players, right?
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah.
And more power to anybody who's going to stomp down on that, right? A coach to be a
Yeah.
support role, not a second player, right? So i'm
No,
i'm here
absolutely.
for it.
No, and you can do stuff like if you see something that happens in a game that you think is a misplay on either person's part, you can bring a TO over to correct it. You can't say anything, but you can get a TO to come up like something that was not
Hmm.
optional. You're like,
Yeah,
oh, they needed to fight with this unit and they forgot. I'm not allowed to
Yeah.
point that out, but I'm allowed to go get a TO and bring them over and make it happen, you know,
and like
or whatever.
that stuff keeps
Mhm.
the game honest, right?
Yeah.
So like I love that.
Okay.
Um,
That's awesome.
I don't
so
Yeah.
I don't know how coaches do it though.
Hmm.
I was like I could not do that because there's I already couldn't really comment well on a game in itself, and now I've got to comment on 8 games. Like this is not going to work
yeah,
out.
Yeah.
yeah,
But then I
exactly.
realize, if you do like, let's say you're playing a game and it's, so I actually talked to Ryan a lot about this, and he was like, so what happens is if your 20-0 match that you thought was going to go really, really well is just not
Hmm.
going well, you can like basically like call a timeout to your match that was going to be stomped, and you can say like, hey, maybe try that 12-inch charge, maybe try that 10, like maybe like
Yeah,
maybe send your hammer unit into the thing you didn't think was going to take off the other thing, and like you have to score points for us because we're losing.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
I had not understood that concept until he explained it to me. And then also the other one
Yeah.
was if you're like turn order, like if you're sitting on, you're like, should I take the double or not? Like, how many times have you wanted to have like somebody speaking on your shoulder being like, yes, that's the smartest idea ever, or like, no, you're really dumb, you should just back
Yeah,
away from
yeah.
that and like let them do the
That,
thing.
honestly, that's
Mhm.
vast majority of timeouts was do I take this double or not?
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
and I love that, right? Because that's
That
like
tracks.
make the Hail Mary so that the other team can do, like the can do the field goal,
You
right?
got to win big, lose small, man. It's all about and you're scoring. What's the 20-0, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you
Yeah.
do anything crazy for your scoring rubric? Did you
I
do
think it
anything
was, oh
inventive? Any?
gosh, there's some fancy term that is really common that every single human except for me knows, but
Okay.
it's
Okay.
like not differential. Oh gosh.
Differential.
Uh,
Yeah.
Differential, yeah.
Probably differential, 80%, other than Ryan yelling at me later, differential.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, like it was kind of your normal kind of like 20-0 was I think the highest you could get, and then
They just had to score like twice as much or whatever
yeah,
the score is. Okay, yeah, differential.
something like
You're
that.
doing it right, Miles.
Yeah, I like I said, I get all the cats in the room, but I do
Hmm.
not I
There you
don't
go.
feed the
You're
cats.
not the
So
So,
minutia.
okay.
If it
Speaking of
makes you
cats in the
feel any
room,
better, I would have not remembered it. So you actually beat me there.
I think we're close
what
enough for
is
government work. That's
what
fine.
is your
Yeah.
advice to somebody who maybe there is a scene, but they don't run GTs in their local area, or they don't run any bigger events? What is your advice to somebody who wants to like up the level of their local community in terms of event size.
Are you talking like one system or 15?
Yeah, like at least one,
Yeah.
like
My advice, because I have a lot of people actually come to me for that question.
Hmm.
My
Please.
advice is to just you have to like repeat, say that you're having an event. So a lot of people will like, um, you know, let's use Battleground Sagas in Boston, like near Boston, as an
mhm,
example. Like they'll put up a tournament and then they'll announce it once, and then they'll get real pissed off that no one shows up. And so
Mm.
mhm,
if you like once a week for 4 weeks, literally put an annoying message that's like, you try to, if you can, like at everyone in Discord or reach out on Facebook, you can just like
sure,
have that like constant, hey, this event's happening. That's a really big thing. Then the other one is tapping into like leadership. So like something we've done with our bigger events is like you identify somebody who's like, let's say you're like, I really want to get Marvel Crisis Protocol to throw an event at our thing. And I know that
sure,
like there's a club around here that plays Marvel Crisis Protocol, and then I also know that like there's a player that loves organizing. Then I like go and
mm,
talk to that player, hey, like we'd love to have you do the thing. I don't go to the other 33 players. I go to that one at the top and I'm like, hey, can you bring your people? And that's like the start of it. And then there's a lot of like there's always like that same thing back to the first point, which is just follow up, just like that constant drumbeat of like, hey, we're here, we're here, we're here.
yeah.
Um,
It's so tough. As someone who does the marketing for this podcast, I feel really annoying all the time. You know,
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
you've got
same.
it. It's I think to get over like the annoying because oh my gosh, like I'm terrible. I'm always in Facebook group. I'm in every single Facebook group you've ever dreamed of or not dreamed of or never want to have been
oh
in.
my God, I feel the
Um,
same way, but I'm on Discords. I'm
yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Oh,
Every
Yep.
anyway,
Discord.
Yep.
So the way I think you get around that, because I am not a salesman at heart, but the way you get around that is like your brand. I think like it's just if you're really, like we're really confident that like if I slap a Yeti image on my thing that looks really cool and he's like doing like this and I love that I myself love that
he,
image,
he's
then
doing the
like
metal horns for everybody at home.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. If
yeah.
yeah, right. Sorry, Theo. If
Yeah.
I basically like, if I'm confident that my brand will speak louder than me, then that I'm fine haunting the entire Facebook internet, which is a dark place to be in.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I
Good
I
for
am like
haunting stuff.
totally fine doing that because I think like ultimately I've got this image of like, okay, once I get them out of this dark place, they're gonna have fun. And
Hmm.
so,
Sure.
yeah. So I try to speak through my brand, but
Okay.
still with my name front and center. I'm not afraid to put my
Sure.
name in front of things. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That
Yeah.
that hits close. I mean, you certainly see me
You
dropping
can't
the
have
same things
shame
in all
in
the
this.
discords all the
and
time.
then to like add like a third, I got a lot of points here, but
Oh,
to add like a
dude,
third
yeah.
like
Preach
angle
here.
to it all, something that like, so I also used to like I started by like running a lot of very alternative events down in Memphis, and something I like learned, like kind of like a weird, zealotness about it was, when you throw an event, like let's say you're like, I want to get all my Age of Sigmar people together. One thing that could help, in your community or like getting your Discord out there or whatever, is always like don't do what everyone else does. And I know that's like really like it's kind of like whatever bespoke or whatever, but like throw a pizza party, but then like give everybody a dart gun or something. Like do something really dumb, like the
Hmm.
crazy like. So we used to do like drunk spelling bees, and so people would show up because they're like, "What the fuck is this?" And
Sure.
so like basically like my idea there is like find your concept. Like, instead of trivia, we have spelling bees, and then
Okay.
add in like tipsy to the front of it. And you've got tipsy spelling bee. And like everyone's like, this is new and improved. And oh my gosh, what's happening? So like have a pizza party for your like
Is
for
it
your AOS.
fantasy? Like, is it AOS where they're trying to do? Where like there's Y's instead of I's and shit. We're getting all kinds
Exactly.
of crazy. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Like add like a dynamic element to it. And I think that I think it just helps. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm like
Yeah.
speaking to the like I don't know if I have like the right. I haven't written it down on paper, but we
I
always
like
like
it.
yeah.
The new twist to get people
Like with
kind of
AOS
jazzed up.
Masters, like I don't know if it got any more one more person interested, but like we had a DJ on Friday, and I haven't seen a GTE that just has a DJ on Friday. So like that might have not been the best example of it, but like that's kind of like where I would just say like step outside of that box just a little. Even just
Yeah.
a pizza party AOS RTT sounds more interesting just than like an RTT, right? And
You
I
so
know,
mean,
that's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
free
no
meal with the
thought
entry. You
And a
get
little,
on that.
Honestly, something that
and a little
happens over here
chaos.
in this part of the world is that GTs cater lunch.
Yeah.
That's
Damn.
part of your ticket, and it was weird the first time, and now it's great, and I don't know if I want to go back, but you
Yeah.
know,
The lunch is
but
a
uh,
hit and miss, maybe.
but yeah, like yeah, something small like that makes it like it's like, oh, I get lunch.
Yeah.
Yep.
And just
That's
having an
nice.
icebreaker too,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
on the Friday night of everyone coming in, just to be like, cool. Now, if I came here without friends, just be like, hey, I'm just trying the event. This is my first time. I don't have the community yet. You
Hmm.
have a vehicle for people to just hang out and chill in a casual space where there's no pressure to do shit.
Well,
That's a
and
good point, and maybe just to that as well. I mean, you were speaking with the brand you guys were developing, Yeti horns, the way the events are run. I mean, people know that's kind of part of the package, and so the fact you had Jam doing the DJ stuff, the fact you had like bowling included, it hits like
Yeah.
both the brand feeling and also exactly what Rocco's talking about there, like that feeling of inclusion. Like I'm here for a weekend event, not just some games in a convention hall and then whatever I can
Hmm.
string up around it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Mhm.
that's my TED talk there.
I liked it.
love
I
it.
liked it.
I mean, now I'm curious what you're going to say if you have 15 game systems show up. That was just for
Well,
the AOS one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
What do you
my
add on?
Jedi lightsaber battles and my wand what is it? We have like a wand competition where you anybody can participate and it's kind of like rock paper scissors and Harry Potter.
Okay.
Nice.
So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
like that. So,
So, dueling, that's the word I was looking for, dueling.
There
mhm.
you go.
Nice.
So one question I had, and this was maybe kind of apropos of nothing, but maybe the viewership needs to know, is everyone got to be a realm? How did you let people pick their realms?
That is a really great question. Uh I wasn't in the room when they got picked, but
Ryan, get Ryan.
yeah, get Ryan. No, I think this was a Corey, Gareth, Jeff
Okay.
thing,
Mhm.
but I think it's more Jeff is a very amazing artist out of Texas, and I think we wanted to put a spin on it that wasn't just like regional. I think that's kind of what it comes down to. I think we're talking about opening up to 10 realms, 10
Oh,
regions next year because of math and how people pair up and so there's like a little bit of debate at the end if I think like the first place team ended up playing the fifth place team because of some wacky math and stuff like that. But
Sure.
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know if there was like a hard and fast rule other than like they looked at the map and they went for it. Yeah, I was a little like yeah, I was a little uh, uh anyway. I liked the realms.
Mhm.
I we're late in the episode, so I'm sure that the people that matter for this dropped off. But the Olgu being the South,
Everyone listens all the way to the end.
no, they do. But
you'd be
the two
How
surprised.
people
dare
that
you, Miles? So
I
the
long.
have to
two
believe this. I'm
no, the two
sorry.
people that does matter on this probably don't even care. But I just kept joking with everybody. I was like, guys, like we're a bunch of like white guys in a room, and you guys put Olgu as like the South. Like we can't like that's a bad PR thing. But like it's totally like in my head, and I'm like overly sensitive about those things.
Hmm.
And
Sure.
Mhm.
so, but everyone
You
was
need
like, it's
one
just
person in the room to be just to make sure in case someone does overstep somewhere for real. You're like, hey, wait a minute,
yeah.
wait a minute, wait a minute.
And I usually am that person, and so I just like, and everyone was just like, "Miles, shut up," which, but it's totally fair. Like nobody meant anything by it, but it was just like, it's
Hmm.
like, okay, next year we might like switch around the regions a little bit on that, but
Sure.
Yeah.
that's
Was
just me
the
being like
was the
full
Midwest shaman or the
Shaiish.
Rust Belt? Oh,
Yeah,
Shaiish. Okay.
Shaiish. Yeah, and I
Nice.
think they like Gur was like the California area, which I think makes sense because it's got like deserts, but you could argue that that goes into like Texas. So there's definitely some like actually, and that's a really interesting point. So uh the regions are being figured out like as we speak again because we're like
Okay.
kind of redrawing borders and like we're getting feedback from regional leadership.
Hmm.
And for example, like there's like a somewhat contentious point where like Pacific Northwest like refuses to like BC is considered Pacific Northwest, but BC is in
Yeah.
Canada, so like does Ridge and Jordan get access to BC? Or
Oh.
like there's a player in Louisiana, Jeremy Liff, I can't say his
Oh,
last name.
yeah, the
The
city's
Favre.
player. Yep.
Really amazing player, loves to play with Gavin. Gavin loves to play with Jeremy, and
Yep.
they're currently in the same region. But in theory, like I lived right next to Louisiana, like it is southern as hell. And
Mm.
so, like
Interesting.
the districting, it's really really difficult
Kind of
because
Mighty Ducks them, where they're not on.
yeah,
They gotta redraw the line, so then he has to
yeah,
play with the
Yeah.
I love that
upstarts.
reference. But yeah, so right now we're kind of like, in Pennsylvania is like not really New England, but like kind of is New.
Yeah.
So like it's hard because like it's not as cut and dry as like let's cut up the regions and then send everybody over there because like the Sigmar player base varies so much from each
Hmm.
of these regions. And so
Yeah.
Mhm.
you don't quite have like there's not like it's not a cut and dry thing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Sure.
Let alone within each state, like, like for Pennsylvania, there's the Pittsburgh side, then there's the ones out of
Mhm.
Philly.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Philly
I'm
Don't
draws new.
conflate those two
No.
whatsoever.
I'm really curious, like if you guys do have to redraw the map lines by adding two like regions, like one, which ones you got to pick and where they're going to be. I imagine it would be like the 8 points and then the gnaw hole, for Skavendom. But who gets to
Okay.
be
Yeah.
the gnaw hole?
Is Old Hish? We got a little where Slanesh is imprisoned in play? Are
The
we?
hidden gloaming. Yeah, who gets to be hidden
Yeah.
gloaming?
I have it in some message somewhere. I'd have to like really, it's buried, but we have the
That's fine. You
names.
don't gotta share all your secrets.
That's all
Well,
right.
yeah, I
We
like
leave
sharing
an
secrets.
air of mystery to.
So,
I like the idea though of these eventually getting kind of solidified, and then they're like NFL teams.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
it'd
Did
be
you
really
guys see
good.
the logos at all?
I
They were
did.
fun.
Yeah.
I saw a
Yeah.
few of them. I didn't see all of them, but
Dude,
Yeah.
I'm in my actual group that I play a lot with is out of the Midwest, and again, like with Nick True and them, and seeing was Sean the coach, right?
Yeah. Sean was the coach.
Yeah, and they the nuke doctor there, and then they I got to see a bunch of the different logos. It was really freaking cool.
Yeah. Um, that we finally came up with like a corn logo for them. I actually kind of I made that one.
Nice.
But that was like a fun collaboration. We like Rob, I sat on the line with Rob the Honest Wargamer for
Hmm.
an hour like a week or two before and we actually there's like hidden foot or archived footage of Rob and I doing the pairing process with the logos. But long story short, he got really busy and couldn't condense it all, and then just made like one like overarching video.
Hmm.
But we were like having a blast with it. I accidentally like misplaced one of the logos, and like it went
oh no.
sideways. It was
Oh,
just it was like a whole thing.
Jeez.
But
Did you make the silly dice that he has to roll over and over and over again?
we didn't this time. That was like the
Okay.
original plan, but we just did one of those like online like happy wheels where you just press the button and it spins and makes loud
Okay.
obnoxious
yeah, yeah,
noises.
it's
Gotcha. Yep.
amazing.
That's
And
probably
that's how we
less
did
fun,
pairing.
but way faster.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, we Rob kind of like we've met like Corey knew Rob from Worlds. We had chatted with him for quite a bit, and then we flew him over for Everwinter, and then became
Nice.
good friends. And then we had bought him a ticket to like I want to say it was like Ironworld last year or something like that, and he ended up not being able to go. And so we like this was like our cash in on that. We were like, okay, like hey, how about you come to Masters and stream for us? And he was just as you can imagine, he was a blast. And so he was fun.
Hmm.
Yeah.
it seemed like it. I did check out the stream you guys had it up, like his Twitter, which, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. The first round was a little hectic. We were having tech difficulties, but I think long term, like, oh my gosh, like I freaking Rob's amazing. I do want to like, I kind of want to have like a US based streamer for the event.
Sure.
But like, I don't know if like Jordan wouldn't be. I don't know if Jordan would be interested in that. He tends to do like very like bespoke like YouTube videos, and so, maybe someday we'll figure out like a very like we'll kind of keep it in the US, but
Okay.
Just it was nice to have his stamp of approval, because he doesn't run worlds, but he knows those people at least by proxy, and like
Mhm.
we can't just like come on the scene necessarily and be like, this is our event and nobody should go to the other event or whatever, right? And so
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think they're like, the way I see it is Masters becomes like a, like like tennis has like or is it tennis or the golf or something that has like the US Open and the British Open and the
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Australian Open. Like the
Room
way
for a
I
bunch
see
of
it
Both,
opens. Yeah.
either or,
Yeah.
either or. You're
is
fine.
like those.
The
Good
sports
I
will
agree
never
with
be
that.
fully decided. Yes.
Yep.
Well, you know what? Like, totally sounds like the event went off without a hitch in a lot of ways. But obviously, little complications, things come up, but huge smashing success. I've only heard positive feedback from it, and
Yeah.
really kind of exciting to get under the hood there. I mean,
Yep.
what we really got to know though is, how Pacific Northwest pulled it off. What was their secret? Or maybe for next year, how the other teams can up their game to challenge Pacific Northwest. I
The
do have
secret
one
was,
secret. Maybe you
and
might
this
know.
is
You
it.
might know the
It's
secret.
Ricky Fisher with the Trogs.
Yeah.
Obviously, Ricky
Yeah.
Troggy. Come on, people.
Like, you take a man who, like, if Trogs were the worst army in the game, he'd still play all Trogs. He doesn't
He
care.
Find a way to
lives.
win.
He's a
He
This is what
lived
he
the
was
specialist.
born to
Trog.
do.
He's
He lived the
dedicated.
Trog.
He was molded by
Yeah.
it. Some people didn't pick up a Trog until this edition.
He
Exactly.
was dank before it was dank, right? I think that's
Look,
the
guys, he wakes up and he puts his Trogs on one leg at a time, just
There we
like
go.
everyone else. All right.
He sits down every
He's
morning
just
to
a
his
really
bowl of
good
centipedes and
player
toadstools with the rest of us.
that happens to Trog hard.
He wants to play one army and one army only, and
And he does it
you gotta respect
brilliantly
that.
and he paints it
Very much
brilliantly.
so.
But if you want to challenge Pacific Northwest next year, all of the regions listening, there is one way. And Miles, before we start the episode, clued me in on the way to do this.
Oh,
You have to wear the matching jersey and short shorts combo for the Always Strikes Less merch store, because that's going to make sure you have just that competitive
it'll
edge.
just distract them with your beauty.
I am working with our merch producers to get rip-off basketball pants because
Okay.
I think that's what we need in our lives.
I mean,
Actually,
curious
Options.
for
So-
curious listeners, where is this website that I would find this merch so I can defeat everybody?
Sure, it's alwaysstrikeslast.com or alwaysstrikeslast.square.site. Both of those work.
the
Yeah.
.com will redirect you to it.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
Yeah,
don't
we'll be
do
happy.
that to me. Don't do that to me. I
And
It
spent all
also
that
hosts
time.
our podcast.
Producer
Great
Matt the
play-
Matt
if
getting
you
really
know-
frustrated here at Miles.
And,
Producer
and
Matt
if
the
you-
Matt really upset now.
If you know a player out there who likes to win games of Age of Sigmar and doesn't listen to this podcast yet, you should have them like and subscribe, and also
Crazy.
get that key link in doing so to visit the merch store to
and
get
do
that game winning swag.
hold on and do what I did way back in the day when there was Dimensional Cascade alive and turn on the notifications.
Yes.
Yes.
Apparently
Yeah,
that
key.
Weird
apparently
enough.
that is how it happens. But I do want to underline with some pseudoscientific evidence for why that merchandise may be so good at defeating Pacific Northwest players. It is bright in color
Yep.
and will reflect sunlight, which we don't get much here.
That's true. It's
So
all green.
you will simultaneously stagger us with your angelic sun
While being
like
comfortable.
appearance. But also we will yearn to just bask near you, of which we'll try and play the game as long as possible, thereby timing out all the way to the end, of which you'll probably win because we're blind by the end of that.
There we go.
I think,
They can't-
I think
clocks.
They can't
Yeah.
play you if they can't see.
that's
Oh.
right.
Some deep strategy here, guys.
Mhm.
I think we did we check all the boxes? I think we did.
I think
Oh
we
no,
did.
no,
more.
we do have one. We do have one, and this is a Rocco standard here now. What did you do to prepare the day
Oh.
of the start of this tournament,
The
Miles?
pre-event ritual. Yeah. What did
Yeah,
you do to
what
make sure we're not
is your
about to hit?
pre-event ritual?
Wait, to prepare for the event itself?
Yeah,
To run the
you know,
event.
you
Just
were
to
an
be ready.
organizer. We
Just to
ask
be
this
ready.
every time
from
people
wake
playing.
up to
Yeah.
the first
Oh,
round
gosh.
starts. Let's hear the blow by blow.
Yeah,
Okay.
man.
So my normal mode of operation on every single event I've ever run is I have terrifying insomnia,
Oh, good.
and
Nice.
I got about 2 hours of sleep. And it's not even because I'm stressed at the event. I think my body just knows to screw up right around then.
Mhm.
And
He's just
Get
so,
like
it out
us.
early. You got to
yeah.
get it
Just
out
like
early.
us.
Um, and so then I go in search of Dunkin' Donuts, and
Like a good New
because I
Englander.
like
Yep.
to drink, dare I
What's
say
your
it, trash
what's your
coffee.
coffee order? Hey,
And so
Yes.
it's a coffee of
um
the people, all right? What's your order at Dunkin'? What's your order?
I just a coffee, like the big coffee, like just that I don't even have like a any requirement but that.
You just grunt at the
But
dude behind the counter and go coffee, and that's
yeah, basically. And I'm
good
actually like I'm
shit.
trying to get closer, like I'm trying to get the New England crowd to accept me, just and that's why I drink Dunkin' Donuts. It's not
There
because
we
it's
go.
good. But
Oh no, it's just the coffee of the
Oh
people.
man, and you simultaneously just lost all of them
I mean,
they're not even gonna
with
let me
that
into those
side
games
shade
anymore.
there now.
But no, I mean, I'm actually creating a corn army that's Dunkin' Donuts themed,
so
Okay.
so
as
good.
another form of acceptance. But
Nice.
yeah, my normal thing, I just don't sleep, so I just go through the day delirious, and that was no exception. So
I love that. I love that the pre-cream ritual is like jittery screaming into the void plus a big Dunkin' Donuts, like
Mhm.
large iced coffee.
yep.
Need your large iced coffee there. What kind of donut you get?
Um, I usually, if I get something that early, it's probably going to be one of those like egg bite things that looks like it's from outer space.
Oh yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
like in 10,000 years you'll find one like in like a dusty
Yes.
fallout. That would be the exact same.
Do you
I
do
mean, at
hash
that point,
browns?
it's sentient and it controls the like lower life forms around it, right?
Yeah.
It makes
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
hash browns dance, dude.
Uh, well, guys, with that poignant mental image, I think we've come to a pretty good place.
I think we did. Miles, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a
Yeah.
blast.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Miles, for hosting.
Oh,
And
nice.
everybody else for hosting as
Doctor,
well.
doctor, doctor.
Yeah.
Indeed,
Doctor.
indeed.
Yes,
Thank you,
yes,
Miles.
I
Thank you all
concur.
for this.
Concur.
Now it's just a matter of who gets the
The
last
last
word.
word?
Oh my God.
Duncan.
Doctor.
Donuts.
Hey, listen, everyone runs on Dunkin'.
Are we sponsored now? What's going on here? This is the last word, not a Dunkin' Donuts commercial.